Hey guys, it's the Captain here. Welcome to another episode of Andertons TV. And today I am joined by the wonderful Thomas Blug, who, I don't know whether or not, are you more famous for your extensive
music
back catalogue of excellent guitar music, or do you think you're more famous for inventing this?
Well, actually, I do both, and I still do both. Some people want to put me in this corner or that corner, and I just can't help it. I'm a musician by heart, and I have to play my 80 gigs at least a year. And on the other side, I'm amp designer for the last almost 30 years.
Wow.
So actually, I turned my two hobbies into my profession.
Oh, good for you, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about you as a guitar player first. Yeah. I listened to a little bit of this stuff. I watched a little bit of your stuff on YouTube, and it's very kind of, I guess, what sort of 70s rock kind of inspired.
Sure.
So who were your, heroes growing up? And
I mean, my first hero was probably Ritchie Blackmore, my real first hero. And before I was playing the guitar, just listening to music, my hero was Keith Richards.
Right. Yeah.
So I like the attitude and I like the riffing, the dirty bits. And the elegance and the other nasty bits from Blackmore was the first thing. And then of course the world expanded, and there's Jeff Beck, and I'm very influenced by the Strat guys. That's why I'm sticking with the Stratocaster all my time. I do have other guitars as well, just to mention that. But you name all the Strat players, and
Gilmour,
Gilmour.
Clapton.
Yeah, there we go.
All the good ones.
Yeah, Stevie Vaughan, and
of course. Yeah. And were you a professional musician, or have you always kind of supplemented what you were doing by sort of doing amp servicing and design?
Yeah, the whole thing started quite naturally. I was at school, and I was not that good at school, but I had to finish it. And when I was 17, I had my first studio session work already, getting paid for it.
Nice.
I didn't have a car, so my mother had to bring me to the studio and the producer. It wasn't the best music then, but I got some money with that, and I had some kind of functional bands at that time. I always had some of my original music bands, but as you know, original music doesn't make much money.
Yeah.
So it was always a mixture of different things. Giving lessons at that time, playing in pubs, doing session work, and then things were growing. And the funny thing is, when I was 11, my first hobby was electronics. And I started the guitar only when I was 14. Mm-hmm. And when I was like 20, I sold all my electronic shit. So because I wanted to concentrate on being the musician.
Yeah.
But then when I was 22, I got hired by Hughes and Kettner as a demo guy. And I did the demo for their whatever first programmable amp, and I liked the concept, but I didn't like the sound. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in R&D for them for another 27 years. And then in the meantime, I was always freelance with Hughes and Kettner. I worked also for Steinberg and some other companies. And there's a vintage signature guitar and stuff I've done there. And finally, after all those years, I decided to found my own company.
Oh, good for you, man. So look, whilst you were playing, were you always kind of a loyal Hughes and Kettner guy, or have you kind of owned, would your gigging rig have been old Marshalls and Fenders? And
yeah, of course. I mean, as a studio guy, I had to have everything that sounded good.
Yeah.
So I have the best excuse, or always had the best excuse, being a sound designer. I bought everything that sounds good. Old Plexi Marshalls, old, Tweed M's, Voxes. Wherever I was in a music shop doing clinics for somebody else, I was buying for myself. So
that's never good. Where you get paid 500 euros to do something and end up spending 600 because you've been in the store.
For now the thing is pretty good. I got everything I wanted.
Yeah.
It's about 10 Marshalls, about 8 Fenders, a few Voxes, and
Amazing.
A bunch of guitars. So it's declining, my buying habits.
So what was the pivotal moment where you thought to yourself, I don't want to carry all this big stuff around anymore?
It is related to my music playing. When at my 20s, I've done the session work and this stuff, and then I got into the touring business, and at that time it was mainly pop in Germany. and we had a huge band called Tic Tac Toe, which was kind of the German version of the Spice Girls.
Right.
And I was Tic Tac Thomas in this band.
Yes.
Being casted. And by the way, Mr. Christoph Kemper was on the casting trying to be the keyboard player.
Right.
Well, I got the job as the guitar player, and he didn't get the job as the keyboard player.
But he's done okay for himself.
Absolutely fine. So, anyway, and I've been doing the big tours. We even opened up for Michael Jackson. So, I had a backline. I hadn't to carry anything. But, after, so to speak, 15 years serving the pop industry, I decided, hey, wait a minute, there's my own music.
Yeah.
And also the business and in the touring and the pop kind of went down. And I thought, you know what, now is the time to form my own bands. Mm-hmm. And of course, you get into smaller venues. And then, what about your 4x12 living in the second floor?
Yeah.
And that's no fun.
No, not cool.
And that was the starting point for me to think about smaller products.
Yeah.
And the first thing I've done is actually this cabinet here.
Oh, okay.
This was my private, it's now called a Fat Cab.
Yeah.
This was my 4x12 replacement, being a single 1x12, teal small design, but as small as can be, based on the Mesa Boogie, but made it wider, deeper, because I wanted more oomph. And this now became the Fat Cab.
So I'm always fascinated with cabinet design. It frustrates me deeply that most customers zone in on the amp head that they want to buy, and they're in the store and it's like, that's the sound. Yeah. And then they go, right, I'll take it. And you'll say, so would you like the cabinet that you've been playing it through as well? And they're like, no, it's okay, I've got a cabinet at home. And you're like, but that's 50% of the sound. So tell me about cabinet design. What did you learn while creating this?
First I started with the housing, and I used Celestion speakers. I'm a big fan of greenbacks and vintage 30s, but me being more the bluesy kind of guy, I was more into the greenbacks. Mm-hmm. The problem about the greenbacks is they officially handle 25 watts.
Yes.
And I always played a 100 watt amp through them, which is okay if you know the limit.
Yeah.
But I had a bass player, Reggie, who played with Ike and Tina Turner back in the days.
Yeah.
And when we did our Blue Hendrix project, he thought he was Jimmy. and he was on his 1500 watt bass amp.
I'll just give you the quick plug.
Okay, yeah.
I'll just get this one.
This one. Yeah, and so I actually killed a few of those greenbacks. But when I did my own company, I had to think about what speakers would I use. And after checking out a lot of speakers that I like, I found out I actually designed my own speakers too.
Oh, okay.
So these are BluGuitar speakers, voiced after the good old British speakers, but with a little bit more power handling.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm very proud of is having a consistent sound from very low volume to even the highest one. So
so what do you get in total power handling from one of these?
Officially, these have 60 watts. You can have a bit more.
Yeah.
And in combination with two cabinets, you have a 120, and the Amp1 delivers 100. You have, with two cabinets, you can get on 10. Everything on 10 is safe. Yeah. If you have only one, you go up to 8, and it's okay.
And this is a closed back cabinet.
Yeah.
Is it ported on the front?
Yes,
So you've got
it's a big port.
So that's where you get the bass end. Presumably.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now this is, if you thought this was small, obviously this is crazy small.
Absolutely.
And we're, just so you know as well, when we get round to some playing, or whenever you hear the playing, we're hearing both cabinets in the room, but that's not really, we haven't set it up like this because this is how you'd typically have to use it. You'd use one or the other, or perhaps a matching pair of the two. So when we're playing, we'll tell you on screen whether or not the microphones that you're listening to are either this one or this one, or actually for some of it you're going to be hearing
the BlueBox
thing. But so when I love the idea of being able to gig with a cabinet this big, but with it sounding like a cabinet this big. So absolutely. I mean, have you managed to? What have you done in this to try and achieve?
The story,
close to that.
The story was so simple. When I finished my Amp1, I had this 100 watt Nano tube amp in a 2-pound package, so small as can be. And I thought, cabinet could even get smaller.
Yeah.
So I took a 12-inch speaker, put it in a box. So this is 12-inch, from side to side.
Is there around here?
So, and I just had a movable back wall, and I experimented where it sounded better, made a mark, asked my sound engineer that does it at the front of house when I play live, can you make your mark? Looked at both same. So this was the first thing, and the next thing I experimented with some portation.
Yeah.
I had tubes, I had 4, I had 2, blah blah blah. That's the outcome, and it's amazing.
Do you find the material and the thickness of the baffle that you use on it makes a big... So what happened there? Does the baffle move much, or is it very rigid?
See, this cabinet is so small, I don't need to have very thick wood, like 20 millimeters. I can go down to 13. And this saves a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And also this portation is an extra stiffness. So that's why this cabinet is so lightweight. And it's actually so small you can put it in a suitcase.
Sure. Is it the same speaker in this as this one, or a different speaker?
It's basically the same speaker, the same membrane, but this has a 38-ounce magnet and the fat cap has a 42-ounce magnet.
So a little bit more power handling in this one.
So on the fat cap, the bass, it's more about the low end thing. It's like how can you get the tight 4x12-ish low end.
But I mean, I'll put links in the description below. I carried both of these cabs from Thomas's car to the video room, which was about maybe 60, 70 meters or whatever like that. And it's they are lightweight as far as cabs go. So anyway, we'll have a little listen here. But of course, I guess the main breakthrough innovation is the BlueGuitar Amp1, which, if you aren't familiar with this and you're thinking, oh, it's a pedal, it's not a pedal. It's a 100-watt guitar amp.
Exactly. That's
in a pedal.
Yeah, in a pedal format. Why it's a pedal format? Because we need our hands to play and we have our feet to switch. So, and that's a pedal, sorry. And my concept about this amp is it should be on a pedal board, or you can travel with it in your gig bag, whatever. So that this was... my dream was always to have an amplifier that I can take with me wherever. It's universal power, blah blah blah. It has all the features.
Yeah.
But
before we get into the technical detail about this, let's just quickly run through some sounds so people can kind of get an idea. I mean, I noticed that you've got this 4 sort of gain stage preamp, clean, vintage, classic, and modern.
It is actually 4 discrete, separate preamps.
Right.
The concept here is I have one master tone control and I have my custom controls, and there's a tone for the clean on the side.
We may have to insert a still image of it.
Oh, well done. Here. See here.
Well done. Let me hold it up to this camera so they can get all zoomed in.
Yeah.
So I didn't see those.
Yeah. And this is something you dial in yourself to have your personal setting for your guitar and your style and so on. And then when everything is matched, you just concentrate on the faceplate.
Yeah.
So when you have more treble, you have more treble for all the sounds, which makes sense if everything isn't balanced.
So the 2 sets of tone controls work in conjunction.
Yeah.
But I see. But this is your... That's clever. I've not seen that done before. Just in case you couldn't see what these were on the side as well, you've got the option of changing the effects loop from parallel to series.
And there's a noise gate.
Which has a metal mode, which I assume is the sort of the heaviest.
Absolutely.
The hardest gate.
Sure.
Cool. Look, I'll grab this again if we need it.
Yeah.
But hopefully everything else you can kind of see from the top panel.
Yeah.
So take me through. You got a bit of built-in reverb.
Yeah.
Let's have a little listen to the clean tone.
Okay.
Was it based on a particular amp or just a clean tone that you like?
Yeah, I mean, it's based on Fender amps, basically. On the side, I have this little tone control for it, so it can get a little bit more voxy,
right?
And Fendery on the other side.
Cool.
It actually can break up, so that's another quality about clean for me. I mean, the technology being used is something new here. And for me, what's important is about all the stages, all the channels should just react like real tube things.
Does it have is the impedance input on here typical of a regular guitar amp?
Absolutely.
So we could put a normal distortion pedal in there?
Yeah. I can show you here with the built-in boost.
Oh, so this is a little distortion pedal built in, is it?
It's boost pedal.
Okay.
So this is clean. And now I put the internal boost on and it starts to break up.
So that's a pre-gain boost,
Absolutely.
not a volume output boost.
Yeah.
Okay. We're keeping it German for you here, Thomas. Do you like what we've done here? So we've grabbed a Nobel's ODR1 and plugged it into the input, just like you would if you had a normal amplifier. And so here's without.
Drive it.
Sounds great.
See, the thing is, we're actually driving the front, the front end of the amp1 too. So we get some of the saturation from the pedal, plus some extra saturation from the preamp, and this is rich.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm proud of.
It does sound good.
Yeah. I have this tube dynamic in my preamp section.
I'm going to come across to what Nano tube is, but let's just flick onto the.
Okay, wait a minute.
Oh,
this is clean, and now I go.
I see.
It does work. Just hit the right button. Okay.
I know. I was obviously I jumped ahead of myself there, didn't I?
So,
I see. So when this is on, this then controls which of the three.
Yeah. So this is like the clean overdrive switch.
I see.
There's another mode where you can use the 3 internal foot switches for your 3 favorite settings. But now I'm on the stupid.
So now this once it's in it, now this works. Yeah. I
exactly. So vintage is it's something that is like my GCM 45, which is like one of my favorite amps. So if I go on 3, just like on the original.
That sounded good. I like that kind of, not too much distortion, but that sort of in the middle sound.
Yeah.
So okay, classic. What is that based on?
Well, it's more or less a GCM 800 style sound. It has a bit tighter bass and. Actually, there's a tone control on the side, which gives me the sound of the.
Just want a little bit more bite, maybe.
Yeah.
Sort of tone.
Because this tone control blends from the 60s tone control of Plexis to the 800, which is on the other side. So let me fiddle around here with the classic tone, and then Okay, so this was the classic jar.
Yeah. And then modern, is that more, are we going into more sort of like, boogie, high gain?
Yeah, it's like an American high gainish sound. And again, there's a tone control for it. So it's from a mild singing Soldano style overdrive to like a more metal kind of thing. So it's like the...
You can start to hear that harmonic kind of feedback.
Yeah. And on the other side, let me give you this tone here. Oops, which is now the dark side. And I could use the metal gate. Get rid and
No, that's cool. Just in case anybody's wondering, obviously, we only use the Nobel's pedal there over the clean tone. You can see the on-off lights. We haven't used that bit for any of the gain sounds in here.
Yeah.
That's cool. Look, I am skeptical over any use of the word nano tube or cool tube. You know, I kind of know it's possible to put a tube in something and just make it light up without it really doing anything.
Absolutely, we've been there.
I'm putting you on the spot here, Thomas.
Yeah.
But tell me how the tube in here works and what it's actually doing to the tone.
Yeah, the nano tube, a proper description would be a sub-miniature tube. I came up with the word nano tube to make it simpler, okay? And what it is, it's a Russian military-graded sub-miniature tube. And the thing about this tube is, by the definition, military specs, it has 3 times the lifespan of a classic 12AX7 preamp tube.
Yeah.
And those tubes like these, they have a very sharp kind of curve, which we don't want. But by lowering the heat voltage, not the plate voltage, we get it soft, just like the standard
soft clipping.
Yeah. And which expands the lifespan double.
Yeah.
So this tube will be still alive when we are dead. And that's why it's also hard soldered to the PCB.
Right.
So that's,
it again, if you're not, I'll do my best to try and explain what I'm saying here. So this is a tube that I guess in terms of its basic sort of shape is like a 12AX7, but it's about a quarter or a fifth of its size. You've got to sort of shrunk it down. And instead of having the sort of the circular pins on the bottom, it's kind of got like fingertips almost sort of splayed out that are going onto the board. And are these just made for you, or
no,
this was a
it's a Russian thing, and I bought a huge stock from Russia, so that's my copy protection. Anybody that wants to copy me has to get tubes, and how to get tubes in that quality first and in this amount, you know. So I have like a lot. We won't go into exactly how many. Yeah, and the thing is, it does work in the power amp stage. So everybody goes, "Hey, we listen we listen to the preamp," and it's hard to say, but the preamps are tube free.
So the preamp's all solid state.
Yeah.
All analog, digital or analog?
It is analog.
All analog.
All analog, no digital. The only thing digital on here is the reverb chip. But what's important about the tube, it is in the power amp stage, because the power amp stage is like class D. Everybody knows, I know class D.
Yeah.
It's a lot of power, but there is no punch.
Yeah.
It's just moving air, and where is the guitar thing?
Yeah.
So this tube is like a driver tube in the power amp stage with some other stuff, which is still secret. As we heard some things in the preamp section, you know how it kind of saturates is also like really.
I think that's why. I mean, I'm kind of intrigued with this. I actually liked the sound of the overdrive pedal into the clean sound. I thought that was very, very authentic. But what you definitely can feel with this, I'm not a massive fan of just straightforward Class D, amps.
No, I don't like it at all.
They're very they're very hard.
And they're cold.
Cold is a good word.
If you play in a band with a real drummer, with a real acoustic kit, I think a tube amp, a real tube amp, is the only thing that really makes this instrument, play and feel at the same level as a real drum kit. Anything else is just like a compromise. And my job, with all my background experience here, is to use a new technology, but getting all these aspects of the all tube designs back into my new concept.
I'll have a little play as well, because I think some of that tube power amp stuff, what the tube does is it's very much about a feel and a sag and that kind of compression and that feeling that you're organically kind of connected somehow to the tone, rather than, I mean, again, I think bass amps bass and PA amplifiers are probably the only kind of amps that have successfully started to use kind of Class D stuff, and it sort of works okay.
Sure.
But guitar amps are just a weird thing, especially with distortion. Like distortion and Class D is like, it
doesn't work. Yep, maybe a little comment here. If you have a Class D amp, it's just about being clean and having headroom. And okay, that's fair enough, and it's probably something you want with the PA system, to have a super clean. But what a real tube amp does is it does some overtones, even if it's not played loud. First, the second is every dynamic thing is like a bit spongy. It's punch, and you play the instrument. That's the electric guitar to me.
Yeah,
you know.
I think we talked about Christoph Kemper earlier.
Yeah,
I think he's done a good job of that. You know, the Class D amp, when you play the powered Kemper, you still get that sense of being connected. But I guess that because a lot of that's probably the software that's coming in front of it.
I talked a lot when he started his project. I told him a lot to look after the power amp stage. Yeah. So we've But I mean, obviously his product is 4 or 5 times the price of this, I think. Sure.
So, but so that's interesting. I'm really, I wasn't sure because I know there's a Vox. Who've just designed
a new tube.
New tube.
But this is a different concept.
Yeah, so this is not the same, is it?
No, the new tube is like a chip. They went all the way and they don't have a tube anymore. They have a chip like an IC, and they just use the components of tube, which is very handy for production.
It's an interesting. They've got the way it handles the sort of the plate voltage. I think is supposed to be similar, isn't it, on their new tube?
Yeah.
But anyway, I've got another video with the guy who invented that coming in the summer, so we can talk more about that.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the fact that this is. I love the fact that this is actually not. This is a proper.
It's a
tube.
proper tube.
It's not like a. It's not like
a
fake tube. That's the word. I don't like fake tubes. I like real tubes. This is just a baby tube rather than a fake tube.
Yeah.
So let's again, we'll insert some more sort of playing and stuff as we go through this.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about some of the other features of this. So tell me again how the three foot switches work on here.
There's actually 2 modes. The standard mode means this is clean overdrive.
Yeah.
That's my boost. And it's reverb on off.
Yeah.
Very simple. And you have to pre-select which world of overdrive you are in.
Yeah.
If you're a vintage guy or a classic rock guy or a modern guy. So this is one layout. The second mode is you can, for instance, you have your vintage channel and the boost on and no reverb for your AC/DC, or then even without this.
Yeah.
And you hit this button. And then the next button you will press will recall that sound. For instance, this one, and you have a clean with boost and reverb, and you store this into the first foot switch. So, and then you have your 3 favorite switching settings. It's not memorizing the EQ, but it's the boost. Yeah. And you have all these tweak little knobs.
It's which channel you're on, whether the boost is on or off, and whether the reverb's on, and you can just recall them.
Yeah. And the thing is, then there's an external foot switch option, which can be any foot switch you can plug in
so it's
here.
Just a stereo latching foot switch, just
TSR. And then this can be a which will take over this clean and boost function. So what you can do is you have your 3 overdrive channels here, and then you have a clean channel here, and you can still switch the boost on and off. So even with this little tiny setup, you have a lot of different sound options.
Cool.
Okay, more about the amp features.
Sure.
There's an effects loop. Classic things, send return. As we talked about earlier, there's a serial parallel switch, and on the button there is a -10 +4 dB switch. So it will handle old school foot pedals
and rack stuff
whatever. So there's a recording out. The recording out is analog, which means like to Palmer and the Hughes and Kettner and blah blah blah. So it's only one sound you can use straight into your PA.
Not emulated, or
it is emulated.
There's a speaker emulation on here as well. Yes. Just but one type, not one changeable.
Yeah. It's in between a 4x12.
But that's kind of good as well, because if you want to use your headphones with that, at least you get a speaker emulated sound.
Absolutely.
You don't get like a fizzy guitar sound.
And it's kind of handy if you play gigs and you want not to use a mic, you just put this thing on the PA and blend it with the sound from stage. Perfect. Here we see 2 speaker outs. There's 8 and 16 ohms. Which gives you the full 100 watts power, which is actually 100 watts and spikes up to 150. So I compared it to my old Marshalls. It is louder than a 50 watt, and it's as loud as the old 100 watts. which are not so stiff like the later ones.
I mean, that's still loud, isn't it? I mean, 50-watt tube
It
amplifiers
is loud. It is loud.
I noticed what was interesting, two things about the speaker outputs here. Your cabs come with panels on the back that allow you to wire in either parallel or series.
Right.
That's quite important for you guys. If you're sort of thinking, oh, these cabs look really good, I'm just going to use these with my regular amplifier or whatever, which you completely can.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you understand the difference between series and parallel, because if you plug these in wrong, you may not get
sound
the output that you want, or any sound at all.
Yeah.
Or worse still, you'll plug it in a way that damages your amplifier.
Yeah.
But the other thing I thought was cool, and we'll come on to talk about this in a second, I guess, is that although this great big thick cable here is running into these cabs, this little patch cable here is running into the BlueBox, which is a speaker emulator, but it's taking an actual load into the... Is that because there is no load coming from here, or this is taking a load?
Well, the thing is, my amp, the Amp1 does not need a load.
Right.
So in this case, the BlueBox, which is a convolution technology speaker emulator, which gives us 16 different cabinets and a lot more choices, and to me, like, the best out of both worlds. Like, talking about Kemper, he was after the direct sound, guitar in, amplifier, every effects, and speaker into the PA system. So this is where his first was aiming at. Me, I was into getting a tube amp in a smaller package, the real deal, as close as possible, and I think it is very close. And I was always a little bit jealous on the speaker emulation. And then finally, as we all use IRs, and I thought I need a very simple setup that makes speaker emulators using this kind of technology to get to this quality level. Yeah. And so I came up with the BlueBox, and now in the combination of the two, I can get best results, as we probably can hear.
Well, when we're doing the, we'll do some, again, when we're doing the playing, we'll do some playing where you're just hearing the output from the BlueBox. The bit so the BlueBox is capable of being used with any amp, or even pedals in there, or what?
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the amps. If you have a transistor amp, no problem, no load required. If you have a Marshall, Fender, or classic tube amp with the output transformer and tubes, you need to have a load connected to this. So your amp doesn't blow up. Yeah, that's important. Always.
When we say load, we basically mean a speaker, or a load is effectively like a dummy speaker. On the amplifier.
There's several products out there that do that job. This should be connected here. Then, if you have this kind of amp, and there's a little switch for which I usually put in the middle. Then it works for stage level. We are very, very low here, so I put it on high sensitivity. Yeah. And the low setting is for my friend Uli John Roth, who plays always on 10. But for put it in the middle and it works. The other option here is the line input, which actually takes pedals as well. Yeah. And you could have a preamp pedal, any pedal that has has some decent overdrive. Yeah. Through this.
There are lots of actual preamp pedals coming out now, aren't there? Where they're just designed to be like a clean and dirty channel of an amplifier. And into here.
And into the PA.
Into the PA, and then you get your fold-back monitoring, and then that's a pedal board that's not much bigger than this.
Exactly. This is as small as it gets these days.
So this little section here, you can see we've unplugged the main speaker leads, so these aren't working anymore. What we're hearing is a powered PA cab on the floor. What you're hearing is this straight into our interface. So hopefully we'll be hearing something similar to what you're hearing. And again, I think if you pick a couple of sounds on here that you like, and then I'll just fiddle around with this whilst you're playing, people can see. Okay. I don't know if the detail on this camera is enough to see, but you can see the 16 different types of cabinet type on here. Go everything from little tweed 112s through to vintage 30 loaded 412s.
Metal cabinets.
We can adjust the mic position between the edge of the cone to the center of the cone.
And that's basically
ground lift.
Yeah, there's a transformer balanced output, so no hum possible, ground lift, and there's a little output line out that can be used simultaneously or for your headphones.
Great.
So
well, let's play.
Okay, I'll do so. Here, like or maybe some clean stuff, like that's my guitar, by the way.
The gain tones are always the difficult ones to get through PA cabinets, aren't they?
And that's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want a classic?
Yeah, go classic.
Okay. And maybe we start here with the old 65 Marshall cabinet.
It's just so simple to use, isn't it? It's just like there's no programming or like iPhone app or anything to scare you. It's just like plug it in, go for it. So, cool. Thanks for taking us through that. Just some other bits and bobs. The Amp1 comes in a little gig bag, which is kind of cool. I noticed you had a bigger pedal, like a remote thing as well.
Well, if we look at the Amp1, I thought of the Amp1 as a system. It is more than just an amp. Because I noticed some guitar players are, they want straightforward solutions. They want, give me a clean and a dirty, and anything else is confusing. Yeah. So that's the amp by itself. So the next guy, he wants his 3 sounds. The next guy wants his 4 or 5 sounds, and he can still do it with the amp and just a standard foot switch. Yeah. But then there's the other guys that want programmability. Yeah. And one option is this remote.
So you could have this in a drawer in a rack case or something, could you? And then just do everything.
I have it on my pedal board. I have a bigger pedal board, so I have my amp here and my remote there. And I can then program my settings into the remote 1 pedal. Yeah. And recall like 9 presets from that. There's 4 banks, so you have in total 36 sounds, but who cares? 9 is plenty.
I need 37, so it's no good for me. Can I hold this up so the camera can kind of see what we're talking about here? This is really, it's all sturdy stuff as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So. And it does also have a MIDI out, so any of these presets could recall a setting on your MIDI effects device. Yeah. And there's another thing on this side, you might get confused. I have an option which is called the looper kit. Mm-hmm. The looper kit is a pedal switcher. Yeah. So this will memorize also the settings of the loops.
Oh, I see.
So one preset records all the settings.
How many outputs are there on the loop?
Only 4, but hey,
it's enough. 4. Because okay. If you're not, again, if you guys are going, I don't know what you're talking about. We're now getting into the realms of looping in all your favorite kind of other pedals within an Amp1 system. But if you know what we're talking about, it's probably because you're already doing that. So look.
One more.
Yeah, sure.
The foot switch circuit here, which is for the standard foot switch and the remote one, is also for our MIDI 1 adapter.
Yeah.
And then the Amp1 becomes MIDI.
Yeah.
Which is another world. So you have like a standard, whatever, Roland, blah, 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 nice multi-effects processor, and do the switching with that, and just have the amp switching channels and the stuff with your MIDI system. So there's a lot of options I thought of. And for me, the important is please choose the most simple one for yourself. If you are somebody that can master digital effects, go ahead, do it. If not, stay simple.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in the simple camp. Well, look, let's just do some playing now. And I think we'll kind of sign out on this video by going, it's been a pleasure and an honor for you to come in and talk us through. I know you're held in very high regards within the kind of the amp design world. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Just to sort of round up in terms of pricing, if anything, I'll put links to all the kit in the description below. Currently expect to pay somewhere between sort of £550 and £600 for an Amp1. That I vaguely remember was about £200. And on the cab front, somewhere in the region of sort of £350 and £450 for these. So, and again, all the accessories you can find on the Andertons website as well. So there we are. Thank you so much, Thomas, for coming in.
Pleasure.
Yes, it's been a pleasure too. If you've got any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments section below. I'm sure Thomas or someone will answer them all. But there we go. Look, let's play out. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Can I have a little play?
Sure. You want one more? Yeah.
I'm just going to go that sort of. I do like this kind of that just using this as almost like a pedal platform.
Nice, no?
I know we weren't hearing that, but the red light was just like, I think
the
people
red light
panic.
No problem.
Oh, okay.
Because even there, I have a little clipping thing that is very natural, just like a speaker that would compress.
Ah.
No worries, I like it red.